The movie kicks off by showing us Clyde Shelton, an engineer in Philadelphia, spending time with his daughter. They're making a bracelet together. Then there's a knock, and when Clyde opens the door, he's attacked with a baseball bat. Two burglars, Darby and Rupert, tie him up, brutally attack his wife, and Darby rapes her while Clyde is forced to watch. They then stab both of them, and Rupert says something nasty like, "You can't fight fate," to Clyde. Sadly, Clyde's 5-year-old daughter also dies. Next, we meet Nick Rice, a prosecutor who's really focused on his career and boasts a 96% conviction rate. The district attorney calls him in to discuss Clyde's case. When Nick meets Clyde, he tells him that Darby has agreed to testify against Rupert. This means Rupert would likely get the death penalty, but Darby would only be charged with third-degree murder. Even though Clyde says he saw their faces, Nick tells him he blacked out during the attack, so his testimony won't hold up. Nick, wanting to keep his high conviction rate, has already made the deal with Darby, leaving Clyde feeling totally betrayed. In court, Darby signs the plea deal and tells Nick that Rupert deserved it, saying, "You can't fight fate." Nick is pleased because his conviction rate is now 97%. As he's talking to the press, Darby shows up to thank him for the deal, while Clyde watches from across the street, clearly upset. Nick is shocked to see him. 10 years pass. Nick has a daughter, Denise, whom he loves very much, with his wife, Kelly. Kelly asks him to come to Denise's school recital, but Nick says he's too busy with work. While Denise is performing, Nick and his colleague Sarah are at the execution of Rupert by lethal injection. It's supposed to be a peaceful death, but Rupert's last words are that they're killing the wrong guy because he wasn't the one who killed Clyde's family. When the injection starts, Rupert dies in terrible pain, shocking everyone. It turns out the chemicals were altered, and the last words he said, "You can't fight fate," become significant. The initial evidence points to Darby, so Nick tells the police to go after him. Hiding out, Darby gets a call from a mysterious person who warns him about the cops and tells him to ditch his gun because of fingerprints. The caller helps him escape, but directs him to a police car. Inside, Darby finds another gun and forces the officer to drive. They end up at an abandoned place where the officer gets out. Surprisingly, the officer is Clyde in disguise. He was the one on the phone with Darby all along. Darby tries to shoot Clyde with the pistol, but it's a trick gun that injects him with a paralyzing toxin, leaving him fully conscious. Clyde takes him to an abandoned warehouse to torture him. He ties Darby up and injects him with adrenaline to keep him awake, reminding him of how helpless Clyde felt when his family was killed. Clyde sets up a camera to record everything, covers his face, and then uses a machine to cut Darby apart. Meanwhile, Nick and Sarah are looking into Darby's files, but Nick doesn't believe Darby was behind Rupert's murder. The police find Darby's bloody scene, and Nick suspects Clyde. Checking Clyde's records, they discover he's been buying various properties over the years. The police head to a possible location, but Clyde is there waiting, completely naked to show he's unarmed. He doesn't resist arrest, just as he planned. Searching his place, they find a law book and a photo of Nick shaking hands with Darby. The scene shifts to the prison, where Clyde is in a heavily surveilled cell, silent. Back at Nick's house, Denise gets a DVD, hoping it's a recital. Instead, it's the video Clyde recorded of him torturing Darby. In an interrogation room at the jail, Nick subtly congratulates Clyde for getting rid of Darby, and then sits down to get a confession. Nick asks if he killed Darby, and Clyde vaguely says he would have wanted to but doesn't directly admit it. Nick then asks if he had anything to do with Rupert's death, and Clyde says he would want him dead too. Clyde is being difficult, not giving a clear confession, knowing Nick likes to make deals. Clyde offers to tell Nick the truth in exchange for a deluxe mattress in his cell. Nick refuses, but as he leaves, Kelly calls, telling him about the disturbing DVD Denise watched. This forces Nick to agree to Clyde's demand and send the mattress. Back at the law firm, they're still investigating Clyde and learn he bought 9 industrial properties that are hard to trace because he transferred them to a cooperative. In court, Nick tries to deny Clyde bail, but when Clyde speaks, he tells the judge the prosecutor has no real evidence against him. Clyde opposes the motion, citing obscure legal precedents. Judge Laura Birch, who also presided over Rupert's trial, agrees. But then Clyde launches into a rant about the court prioritizing legal technicalities over justice and is removed for contempt. Nick meets Clyde in his cell again for the confession. Since Nick provided the mattress, Clyde reveals the details of the murders, proving he's telling the truth. Thinking it's over, Clyde makes another demand, an expensive steak dinner from Del Frisco's in exchange for the location of Bill Reynolds, Darby's lawyer, who's been missing for 3 days. Clyde specifies the meal must arrive at exactly 1 p.m. The food is delivered, but Nick and his team delay giving it to Clyde, saying prisoners don't have access to time, and he should wait. 8 minutes pass before they give Clyde the meal. He asks Nick what time it is, and the warden says it's 1:08 p.m. Clyde takes it calmly, even though he said 1 p.m. precisely. He gives them the coordinates for Bill Reynolds' location. As they leave, Clyde invites his cellmate to share the meal. Shockingly, Clyde then murders his cellmate using the steak bone as a knife. Nick and his team arrive at Reynolds' location and find him buried alive, only minutes dead. His oxygen tank was set to run out at 1:15 p.m. Dunnigan realizes that because Clyde got his lunch at 1:08 p.m., the 7-minute delay cost Reynolds his life. Nick gets the news that Clyde killed his cellmate and has been moved to solitary confinement. Nick visits Clyde in solitary and asks if he killed Reynolds because his lunch was late. Clyde says everyone has to be held accountable for what happened to his family. Sarah finds evidence of contract payments to Clyde from the Department of Defense. The head DA, Jonas Cantrell, takes Nick to meet a CIA operative named Bray who worked with Clyde. They learn that Clyde was a CIA expert in unconventional methods of killing. Bray warns them that Clyde is in jail by his own choice and everything he does has a deeper meaning. When Nick asks how to deal with Clyde, Bray advises them to just shoot him in his cell because they can't stop him otherwise, adding that if Clyde wants you dead, you're dead. Nick and Cantrell try to convince Judge Birch to restrict Clyde's visiting privileges, which she reluctantly agrees to. Minutes later, Judge Birch answers her cell phone, which explodes, killing her instantly and shocking Nick and Cantrell. At the prison, Nick confronts Clyde, who says the killings aren't about revenge, but about the justice system's failure. He gives Nick a final chance: drop all charges by 6 a.m. the next day, or he'll kill everyone. Faced with this threat, the district attorney's staff frantically look into Clyde's properties. Sarah suggests tracking his expenses to find them. As 6 a.m. approaches, everyone is worried, but nothing happens. Nick tells everyone to go home, thinking it's over. However, in the parking lot, bombs under their cars explode, killing them. Sarah is also killed. Nick's car was the only one untouched. At the mayor's office, she's frustrated by Clyde's continued killings from jail. Nick suspects he has help on the outside. Nick goes to see Clyde again, furious, and punches him multiple times, blaming him for the deaths of 7 innocent people. Clyde tells him the war has just begun because Nick sided with the murderers when he should have done the right thing. After Sarah's funeral, a mysterious man in black powers up a remote-controlled drone armed with a rocket launcher and a machine gun. He uses an EMP to disable vehicles and then attacks the SUV the DA is in, killing him as Nick watches helplessly. Back at the mayor's office, she's disappointed but appoints Nick as the acting district attorney. In his new role, Nick reviews the case files of Clyde's family's murder and the subsequent killings. He learns that Clyde used a weaponized, remote-controlled bomb disposal robot. Nick finds a notification on Sarah's computer with Clyde's corporate expense records, giving him a lead to the 9 properties Clyde bought. Nick and Dunnigan go to one of the properties, which is next to the prison. They break into an abandoned garage and find covered vehicles. They discover a tunnel that likely leads to the prison. Investigating further, they find explosive schematics and disguises. They realize the tunnel system leads to solitary confinement and that Clyde intentionally killed his cellmate to get moved there. Reaching his cell, they're shocked to find him gone. They discover he has cameras monitoring the entire prison and find fake janitor documents, realizing he could be at City Hall disguised as a janitor. Clyde arrives at City Hall, where the mayor is having a security meeting. He plants a cell phone-activated napalm bomb, intending to kill the mayor and everyone in the meeting. He then leaves unnoticed. Nick and Dunnigan race to City Hall, and Nick calls for the bomb squad and Homeland Security. At City Hall, they learn the meeting is on the 6th floor, but go to the 5th to check. They find a briefcase with the bomb inside. It's powerful enough to destroy 2 floors, and any incoming call will detonate it. Nick decides not to warn the mayor, knowing Clyde is watching her. They let the meeting proceed as planned. Clyde is back in his garage, confirming the meeting is happening. He sets his detonating phone and returns to his cell, where he's surprised to find Nick waiting for him. Nick asks Clyde what he's doing, saying that no amount of revenge will bring his family back, and it's a waste of time. Clyde sarcastically asks if Nick wants to make a deal. Nick says he no longer makes deals with murderers, thanks to Clyde's lesson. Holding up the cell phone, Nick tells Clyde that detonating the bomb is a decision he'll have to live with. Shelton decides to detonate it anyway, but as Nick exits and locks the cell, he calmly repeats, "Like I said, it's a decision you'll have to live with for the rest of your life." Nick flees the building, and Dunnigan seals the hatch in the back of Clyde's cell to prevent escape. Clyde realizes the bomb is under his cot, but just smiles, looking thoughtfully at the bracelet his daughter made for him that says Daddy. The cell explodes, with the last shot of Clyde being him looking up with an almost satisfied expression.